Hey, this is Mark Smith, and I'm here with my co-host, David
Hey,
Conley. It's been a while since you've been on an episode,
I
David.
know. I don't know if a co-host is the appropriate term anymore. It's a very distant co-host, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but here's the deal. While I've been doing these other episodes, you've been actually working
Correct.
on the actual solutions to some of the things we're going to be talking about today. So
Sure.
we're going to hit a subject that we've talked before about, which is regulations. Oil and gas, ESG regulatory impact. And the reason why this is hitting everybody big time. I mean, we're getting phone calls, all the time about this.
Yeah, the new part is I mean, I don't think it's very new, but new to most people is all of a sudden the impact of ESG. I don't think anybody realized it until these past couple of months, whenever investment money and all that stuff started getting tied to that, and so they're under lots of pressure for sure.
So we decided we're going to do like a 4-part series on this. So this is part 1, episode 1, and we're going to talk about state regulations. That's how we really got started, focused on the Colorado regulations. And as it turned out, Colorado really has the strictest regulations of any state in the US, okay? Mm-hmm. But there's some brand new things coming up with federal level. So if you think, oh, I'm not in Colorado, no big deal, I can breathe a sigh of relief. Wait till you hear our next 2 episodes. Major changes coming. We decided to put OGMP 2.0, and this is really inspired by one of our clients, actually, who introduced it. Tell them what that is, the oil and gas methane.
Oil and gas methane partnership 2.0. So it's a standard of reporting that's actually endorsed and kind of endorsed by the EDF, and the UN is actually running. So it's a global standard. And from what I understand is that 30% of the world's energy production is actually agreed to this standard reporting. So I would not be surprised if you see an uptick in the United States, in Canada, as that gains popularity.
And then, of course, ESG, which is the whole environmental social governance, which we'll get into in another episode. And I got to tell you, over the last month, at least, everybody has some sort of bonus tied to this. And if you're watching this and you don't, it's coming.
Yeah. Your boss probably does.
Your CEO probably does. So anyway, what I wanted to cover is 2 things, because it really is a difference between the way legislators and ESG look at it. They're looking at top-down reduction of greenhouse gas. In other words, hey, reduce your greenhouse gas footprint by 90% by 2030. Move toward net zero. And what you guys are all used to is the bottoms up, right? Where you're doing quad OA inspections every 6 months, or Colorado doing it every month, and now eventually moving to continuous. Okay, that's bottoms up. And there's a big difference, and these 2 need to meet somewhere, because quite frankly, the way we look at it is operators need to do number 2 in order to do number 1. There's no way to prove that you reduced your greenhouse gas by 90% if you don't bit by bit show an actual reduction, at a site and a source level. So let's get into this, because I'll talk about the new regulations. You could talk about what the impact's been, but the continuous VOC gas monitoring, we were watching this very carefully. We got started a company because of this one, and it's hitting May 1st, 2021, and it's a big deal. So we have lots of companies doing stuff, and we'll talk about the results side. Next one is there's a whole regulation. Don't open the thief hatch. And we heard from one of our operators that the fee increased from $15,000 to $49,000 per tank violation. Per tank. So if you had 2 thief hatches open on one site, that's 49 times 2 times the number of days that it was open. Okay, so these get add up fast. And the last one here, everybody's working on bottoms up emissions inventory. Okay, where you have every single part, all the events, and how much emissions is released. Now in Colorado, you add up all those tons of hazardous air pollutants, or HAPs, that are released, and you multiply by $239 per ton. Okay.
So my question is on the bottoms up, what's the key difference? I know you just went over that, but I'm thinking about, okay, if there's something leaking on a site and you don't know how long it's been leaking, is that to be reported as like a backtrack from the last time it was inspected?
Yes, it is. You're assumed that you were leaking until you can prove that you weren't leaking backwards. So,
Right.
so that becomes a problem, right? Now there actually is formulas that EPA use at a federal level to say, hey, this emission event equals this many tonnage, okay? But a lot of operators who do that say, wait a second, the EPA's numbers are way above what I actually do. So I need to actually start tracking my emission events at a very, very granular level, because I think my overall greenhouse gas footprint is way lower than the formula.
So what
So
an operator can prove that difference? What happens at that point? Is it just
they can prove it, and they can show that with data. Then you, well, in the case of Colorado, you'd have less to pay, because
right?
you multiply the total tons times this 239. You're talking multi six figures you're writing a check for, right?
Yeah.
And same thing is going to be as we get into new federal regulations and how this all works. It's just going to cost you less money for that carbon footprint. Plus, your energy that you produce is going to be more highly desirable by the end consumer. In this case, like electrical generator is going to have to pay more for your product, but have to spend less on carbon credits. And therefore, they're going to buy your stuff over your competitor because you're cleaner than they are. And it's
Right.
and as we get into that federal regulation, we'll talk more about that.
Good.
But here's talk about this continuous piloting solutions. I mean, you're running a bunch of these right now.
Have seen a serious uptick in demand for this solution, and it's something that people are now taking very seriously. It's definitely, the tone has definitely changed to a want or a desire to, no, I needed this yesterday kind of thing. I think part of that has to do with possibly the ESG stuff, and so yeah, and not only the regulation but the ESG as well, because we've seen a big uptake outside of Colorado.
Right.
And that is proving to be a very in-demand product nationwide. So it's not just a Colorado thing. It's an oil and gas thing at this point. So.
And operators are locking down their thief hatches and buying non-invasive tank monitoring solutions, which CleanConnect sells, and that's a biggie, right? So you never have to know the thief hatch. And the cool thing is, you can now get a solution that is as accurate as guide away radar. Right. And I think right now there's way more. We talk to operators who are doing a manual emissions inventory for state, federal, ESG, all of them different, all of them manual, but they're all looking for an automated solution. So what about other states? Almost every state outside of Colorado, they care about EPA, Quad OA more than an individual state. And most are just hoping and praying, I guess, that Colorado level regulations don't impact their state, but it's wishful thinking, because there's new federal Methane Waste Prevention Act of 2021 that's going to dramatically increase what every operator has to do across the U.S. And in the next few episodes, we're going to cover brand new U.S. level regulations and Canadian level regulations next few episodes. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah,
you won't want to miss those. So for now, this is the first part in the series, and we'll be checking in with you on the next part.